at that in this past year. The next quadrant is our people, us, the members. That is where the culture comes in. Now, there was this management guru, Peter Drucker, with his famous phrase that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But for me, you need a culture strategy as a component of your overall strategy within this balanced scorecard. And the other two quadrants are systems and processes and financial sustainability. But as we look at our people, the question is, as leaders, how do we nurture a healthy culture with, particularly in our club, all these different subcultures, in order that we can appeal to each one of them and to each of our members, so as not to have the problems that so many clubs have with volunteers, the 80-20 rule. If you look at our WhatsApp group, if you look at our projects, it's the same names that come up all the time. And the question is, how do we get more names, more engagement with projects? That's always a challenge. And that's a big challenge for our board here. So how do we find out what each member is capable of doing, enjoys doing, wishes to do, but maybe is holding back from offering themselves? And this applies as much to elders who risk becoming passive observers as it does to new members who may feel, oh, let me just get oriented, whatnot. I'll wait till someone asks me to do something. And we are the ones who have to pull out all these people, including our Rotaract partners, to expand the pool of energy available. And of course, the better we do that, the more we attract new members. But we must be careful not simply to go on an expansion binge for the sake of it. There was a time we did that and it didn't work well. We must always have quality above quantity. Above all, as board members, we must nurture an atmosphere of openness. Openness among ourselves, with our President Gideon, and with the members, so that everyone says what they think, including inconvenient issues, inconvenient opinions, and to say it, though, diplomatically, with emotional intelligence. Because we board members have to operate as one solid group that supports each other and takes the club forward. We are assemblers, we are guides, we are facilitators, we are performance managers. And the good news is that all this that we have to do in Rotary is such wonderful background for leadership, as I've said in a Rotary talk some time ago, for our professional lives away from Rotary. So these are the thoughts that occurred to me about our culture and attitudes when I was asked to say a few words to address our incoming board today. I must say that I'd like to second David's motion of confidence in this wonderful group of characters. I wish us all well. And I hope that those from the other clubs have got a few helpful thoughts from what I've been saying. And I wish you all a good afternoon.
Thank you. Hello, P. Gideon, are you on mute?
I was on mute, Madam Chair.
Okay. So I think because PP Michael might not be with us for long, I'll request Rotarian Margareta to pass a vote of thanks. Then we move to the next set of trainers. Rotarian Margareta, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. A privilege to be here. I am out at African Heritage House, and I just had to absent myself from the festivities because I think this meeting is very important. So thank you very much. I love Mike, you had wonderful things to share. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for everybody that's here. All these wise people. I feel like a neophyte.
Are you still on, Rotarian Margareta?
I think somebody has muted her mic.
No, did you, should I have said more?
No, I just wanted to confirm that you are done before I move on to the next.
Well, I will be delighted to have assistance and support for public relations because I think I got the position because I'm a journalist. But if anybody knows, journalism and public relations are very different. So you can be accused of conflict of interest as a journalist doing PR, but I think Rotary does such wonderful work. I hope my story is coming out soon in the nation for 90 years. And all the help I can get from you wonderful people, I will be very happy. I think I've said enough for now. I'd love to hear from everybody else.
Okay, thank you very much, Rotarian Margareta. So we'll move to the next set of trainers, and that's PP David Gidanga. I'll introduce them together, then we'll have the presentations going back to back. So I'll start with PP Sally Gitoho. And I won't read all her Rotary credentials. What I'll just say about PP Sally, I know she has a passion for young people and the deaf. She's running projects with them, and that's one of the passions I know she has. But she's also a very passionate Rotarian, and one of the biggest projects that she worked on was the Rotary UN Day. Of course, apart from being a president of the Rotary Club of Nairobi, which is a special thing by itself. And what is special about Rotary UN Day, it was the first one in Africa, and to have PP Sally lead that, it was an honor, but she also displayed some very unique leadership traits which helped us have a very successful Rotary UN Day in Africa. Please listen to what she has to say. She has a lot of wisdom. I hope we'll all learn something from her. Next is PP David Gidanga. PP David Gidanga has been a Rotarian for a very long time and is one of the presidents who kept on avoiding being president until he was finally cornered. And one of the biggest projects he's participated in is the end polio. He's been the district polio chair, which is a passion of his because he really loves children that he did his medical training in pediatrics. And PP David is a very valuable member of our club, has really great wisdom, and is always the person who brings, I don't want to say sense, but when things are running out of hand, he'll be there to calm down and make sense of everything. So you'll definitely learn something from him. When you go to President Ritesh, she's our current president, and apart from being the tallest Rotary president, our club has very tall people, including past President David Hastie. So when President Ritesh came on board, there was a lot of intimidation. But then one of the biggest projects he's also participated in was the Rotary Day at the United Nations, the one that was led by PP Sally. And he's very good with media relations. He enabled us to get the day into, to get a lot of media coverage, and it was a big success. So Chair, I'll definitely recommend President Ritesh. So thank you very much. I hope you'll all learn something. So we can start, and we'll start with the past President David with his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian Irina, for those kind words. Sounds like you're talking about somebody else. I didn't consider myself to be the calmer person in the club, but thank you for those kind words. I'll ask Anthony to share my slides. I think there's somebody waiting to join also, if you would keep an eye on the show. Now, it's very humbling to be asked to speak about top one first, to talk about leadership in a club such as this, when you have people like Sally, corporate, people like Mike Elton, Justice Aluoch, Margareta, who've done lots of work, people like Irene, who are corporate people, and I am a pediatrician by training, so this is not what I do on day-to-day, and probably my experience in leadership is a gutsy thing, which is probably a useful thing when you're dealing with children. So the topic I was asked to talk about was really, what kind of a leader are you? And as I was trying to think, what do I want to say, I focus more on the kind of work you do and how knowing yourself is key. So this talk is heavily wired or geared towards you understanding yourself, because that has an impact on leadership. And whatever role you are assigned, the goal is always to lead effectively. If you do not lead effectively, it means you may not have defined what you're there for. And if you're working in an organization, you have clearly defined command. That clearly defined chain of command does not exist in Rotary, and yet you are expected to perform pretty much the same way. The boss established no culture and climate, and yet in Rotary you'll already be, if you like, straight-jacketed about the theme for the year and so on, and processes, right? The way you carry out things with all that responsibility, without the ability to have a stick and so on, means that you're going to affect the morale of the members you're trying to lead and how they view you. And in fact, it has something to do with the members that you're going to be able to recruit in your own year. So the critical question here is, are people willing to follow your directions? Very important. Next slide, please. Hello? Yes. That saying, I was just looking through, slides are not too clear, but a leader is best when people barely know he exists. You really must be there without being there. And when people do what they are meant to do, they say we did it ourselves, and that means that you have achieved. And I thought that was a very good way of seeing yourself as a leader. If you're too much to their face, then probably there's something that you're not getting right. Next slide, please. Now, next, there is something that has changed since March last year. And this is the whole issue of doing things differently. Our club was known for home fellowships, for a lot of meetings, anything to create a get-together was there. And then suddenly, we can't have that. So there is radical changes in terms of technology. We are forced now to sit in front of screens like we all are, and probably is going to be like that. With COVID has come many threats, really existential threats for everyone. Every institution has to re-engineer itself in the way it existed and so on. And to also just remind you that it's very easy to look at people who are very, very successful and think that they were born as great leaders. And I must remind you that only babies are born, not great leaders. And if they are made, you can also be made. Next slide, please. Now, I will not bore you with this fairly generic description of leaders. I use strategic, I use transactional, I use servant leader, charismatic, right? Laissez-faire. All these sorts of descriptions have been made of leaders, right? But three very, very important leaders are considered, three important traits are considered very important in leadership. Next slide, please. This is one that is charismatic. That means the person who is able to build trust with the people with whom they are working. A very desirable trait is one that has a big picture. You must know what you're about. And in Rotary, sometimes that has been shaped out for us. What do you want to do for the year? And thirdly, and that dropped out, is really a person who empowers others. If you empower other people, it means you're probably democratic and you actually let people be those that need to be. And laissez-faire kind of leadership is where you're dealing with people who are experts who don't like being told, particularly the artsy people. They know what they're doing and you can't keep on hovering around them. And those are considered very, very important, desirable characteristics for leaders. Are there some, next slide, please. So for effectiveness, and that's why we said you are leaders, do you connect with your people? Do you actually have empathy? Can people feel you? I often say that you listen to a mother speaking to you, not what she's saying, but what she's not saying. And you must actually create that sort of a culture. And I think that in leadership all the time, whenever you have meetings, particularly if you have a very, very rigid organization, is to hear what is not being said. That is important because then you create cohesion and effective teams. And that cohesiveness and effective teams are able to actually cause sustainable success throughout, and not thinking about just your year and then the next year, the things just drop off. Next slide, please. Whenever I hear the term servant leadership, I think it's Honorable Kalonzo who would always talk about servant leadership. And that's, I'm going to be borrowing heavily from Robert Greenleaf, who said that servant leadership begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first. Do you want to serve? Then you make a conscious decision that brings one to aspire to lead. So there must be a feeling of wanting to serve first and not the other way around. And that's what is described as a servant leader. Next slide. If I talk too quickly, just know I'm just nervous because I'm way out of my usual domain of children. Now, there are traits in leaders that are important, and this will keep on coming up. And past President Mike has already talked about emotional intelligence. And that term was popularized by one Daniel Goleman, who said something that I will read at the risk of boring you. If your emotional abilities are not in hand, if you do not have self-awareness, if you're not able to manage distressing emotions, if you cannot have empathy and effective relationship, then it doesn't matter how smart you are, you're not going to get very far. And I think that summarizes the very many things that I'm going to be able to say about this, right? Emotional intelligence is really the ability to recognize and regulate your emotions in ourselves and others, because the way we perceive them will guide the way we think and the way we act. of course, emotional intelligence has been sort of vilified by some people, and we end up with other terminologies: strategic leaders, calculated leaders, intelligent leaders. And all those things, if you look, there is something pivotal that relates to emotional intelligence. It's now thought that the most long-term effective style of leadership is an emotionally intelligent one. You can't run away from recognizing and knowing yourself, particularly traits that are not necessarily better traits. Next slide, please. So what are some of the characteristics of servant leaders? Really, self-awareness. You must be self-aware. If you're not self-aware, then you're running away from something, and you sometimes externalize things that relate to you to other people. You must have the abilities to be persuasive. Are you able to talk people into doing something? And that is particularly important in Rotary, where you have tasks to do, that they're time limited and so on, and people are trying to survive, and it's going to be even worse for the leadership this year. You have to tell people to do certain things, and yet they are struggling to even remain on their jobs and even come for the meeting. And that is perhaps going to be even critical in Gideon's year. Next slide, please. Now, you must have deep commitment to listening. Somebody mentioned that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen twice as much as we speak. Do you listen with a view to responding, or do you listen with a view to understand what is said? Do you actually interrupt people before they finish speaking? And actually also listen carefully to what it is that they are not saying. Are you empathetic? And we mentioned a little bit about empathy, right? And people feel this straight away, and it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be very educated to recognize that you're empathetic. And we see this in the hospitals where when you have a very big bossy doctor and you have a small little intern who works there, some patients are known to ask, mi nataka kuona daktari mkubwa. And unfortunately, sometimes the daktari mkubwa is a person who is empathetic, not the big one. And the boss sometimes is very embarrassed when the intern is described as being the big doctor. Next slide, please. Yes, diversity. Our club has been called the Rainbow Club, and I appreciate the other Rotarians on the platform. But diversity is not just of race, but also of experiences, ages, travel, expectations, success, and so on. We have a wide, diverse opinions in people, and everybody's opinion counts. And it's it's actually a gold mine whenever you listen to people that constitute your group. They actually make you grow rather than pull you down. And encouraging diversity, even people who think differently from you, is important. And I suggest that we think about that even as we move on. Next slide, please. Trust. Trust is everything. Can people trust you? Again, drawing from trust, it takes a very long time for people to build trust, but it takes very little for people not to trust you. And when people trust you, and sometimes they trust you from the way you speak and the way your body language, which you now lose quite a bit whenever we are speaking the way we are. I'm speaking to a screen. You are probably missing 80% of my communication. People can actually tell whether to trust you or not. They decide whether they're going to tell you what they want to tell you, or they won't. They decide if they are going to be open and whether you're going to have a debate, or they say yes for purposes of really dismissing you. And everyone has a say and everyone has a value to add. And people recognize that relatively independent of their educational level. Next. Very close to trust is really people feeling that you develop other people. Do you want to be the only person who can operate on a hernia? What about when you have a hernia yourself? Who's going to operate on you? And in the past, we have had, and even now, we have people who are the only ones that can do something. Sometimes that's not a very good thing. And that happens sometimes in hard sciences, including medicine, and sometimes in softer areas where you want to have that professorial mark. You're the only one who does certain things. That's not a good thing. You must empower other people if you're going to be a leader. And that means that the more you develop people, the more they cling towards you, and the more you actually have a continuity, which is very important for a club like a Rotary Club. Next, you can also be mechanistic. You expect people to be there to do what you expect them to do. You don't really care much about their life issues. Sometimes we used to make jokes that in a bank, when you work in a bank, it's a highly structured organization, and I haven't worked in a bank, but I do meet a lot of parents who work in the bank. They would tell you that, please let us know that your child is going to be sick 4 days from now so that we can make alternative arrangements to cover your work. Life doesn't work out that way. It's even much more so in Rotary, and a lot more so in this COVID era. You must help people in their life issues, and they must feel that way. Does that mean giving them money? No. Sometimes just to listen. That actually builds trust, respect, and actually a healthy association with the members around you. Next slide. Are we all there? Are we awake? Hello? Am I talking to myself?
We're here.
No, we're here.
Yeah.
I'll probably be asking you to say amen. Yeah. From time. Are you an encourager? Right? The hallmark of really a servant leader is one that encourages, and you encourage people. In adult learning, whenever you are correcting, they say you always begin with things that you did very well. And then instead of saying things that you didn't do well, you say things that could be done better. You know, so even your choice of encouragement, the way you lift people, the way they feel lifted, this kind of language is very, very important. And a true servant leader says, let's go do it, not you go do it. That bossy way of doing, probably they do that in the army. It's very important, right? So it is, let's do it together. We are together in this. Let's do it. Let's learn. Next slide. Sales. A leader is the one really who sells rather than tells, right? And I'm sure Irene will give us a long talk on 7 levels of delegation, but I will not go there. It's really about participating, in letting everyone be participative in whatever you do, rather than sort of do this, do that, do this, do that. So for very, very, very important in Rotary. And you will find when you are the leader that when things don't get done in this volunteer organization, it is your business, it's your baby, it's your year. You are the director of that committee. So it's very, very important to sell what you want them to do. But why is selling important? If they do not understand why it is important, they will not do it. And adults function best that way when they know why. This is the reason we want to do this, because of this, that, and the other. Not just the what and the how, but it's the why. And everyone is an adult who chooses to be in Rotary. That's why you're a certain age group, and it is important to explain the why. Sell and don't tell. Next. Me. All of us grow up and are born and designed to think about myself. And as you get older, you're told, no, you can't think about yourself. Think of a child who has toys. They pick everything to themselves. But over time, you are told, no, that's not a good thing to do. Do share. It's sharing is caring. We tell them these little things and so forth. There are people sometimes, or some of us, who never really grow out of thinking about yourself. Do you think about others? Do people feel you're thinking about others, or are you focused on yourself? And that is an important area of thinking about yourself, because that impacts on the leadership. You must focus on other people, because that empowers them and makes that particular employee or that particular volunteer feel that they are part of the process. Right? Next. Long term. You must think about the next generation. I think Rotary has changed a little bit in the last couple of years I've been here, where we now try to think about the past president, the current president, the immediate past president, the current president, the president-elect, and the president nominee, so that you have basically 4 years within which to run projects. And that is very important. If you do not have long-term thinking, even in Rotary projects, that are, some of them are usually 1 year, others run more than 1 year, then you do not do things to benefit the organization. You are thinking about me. What is it that I'm doing in my year? When I'm the chairman of this, I did this. I finished this project in expert time. That's not necessarily good for a servant leader. You must have strategies and actions that help build a solid foundation that is incremental. Even long after you've left, they will say they started that. And I heard Gideon mention that about Mike Eldon and other people who have helped him along the way. Next. Humility. Humility has been described as really recognition of your own capabilities and that you need others, right? Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less, according to that particular writer, C.S. Lewis. So humility, humble. And humble is not just you saying you're humble. It can be felt. It can be felt. Next slide, please. I had hoped Kirago was going to be in the audience today to tell us about a Scrum Master. But probably Gideon, I guess Gideon played rugby. Gideon, what does a Scrum Master do?
Honestly, I have no idea, David.
Who is the rugby player here? Kalpa.
Just to be playing rugby.
Yes. I guess some of you must have watched. Oh, Nicodemus is in the audience. Nicodemus, what does a Scrum Master do? Yeah? Nicodemus? That's the way of checking if people are listening or they're asleep. Anybody?
Hi, Dr. How are you?
I'm very well, Nicodemus, yes.
Yes, sorry, we are out and about with Kiva, so I'm a bit distracted. My apologies for that.
That's okay.
But Scrum Master, I know they work in IT a lot. I don't know anything other than that, I'm sorry.
Yes. Any other views? Irene? I know you don't play rugby.
No idea, Doc.
No idea.
No idea.
Anyone? Have you seen the rugby players all being rallied together and their heads are all, and they're all being sort of worked towards some energy and, you know, we want to do big things? I think that term comes from really rugby. And Scrum Master is really a person who gets those around you to focus on the needs of the team, to get them to achieve what they want to do. And I think this is an area to begin to think about. Are you a Scrum Master? Do you encourage people to rally around a cause and get them to achieve what they want to do? Or are you the boss? Very important. Next slide, please. Now, there are certain self-awareness areas that are key to happiness and success. And I borrowed from a lady called Melissa Levin, right? If we do not have self-awareness, we actually move through relationships and experiences disconnected. We are not with it. We don't even question how other people receive and perceive us. It's as if they don't matter at all. We don't exist. And if you are in Rotary and you're completely unaware how people perceive you and receive you, you are not going to get very far, right? It makes us, awareness makes us, if we lack awareness, we are unable to take full responsibilities for our outcomes. We tend to blame other people, right? But self-awareness, you'll be surprised, isn't the domain of the topmost experienced people, or the most senior people, according to one Travis Bradbury, right? You can find, in fact, you find that trait of self-awareness appearing in the middle-level manager. It's as if we get less self-aware the more senior we get. And that's a very important point, I thought, that we must constantly be aware of what is happening around us, particularly when you are, my wife says, the bee's knees. When you think you're the bee's knees, be aware, try and develop your self-awareness, because sometimes you rub people the wrong way, and then you do not become the Scrum Master that you need to be. Right. We can actually, there are actually two issues that I like to mention a little bit briefly as I come to the last couple of slides, is things that are weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, but weaknesses are aspects of ourselves that we can actually learn over time and practice, and if we desire, to get rid of those weaknesses. There are, however, things we call blind spots. We have blind spots. All of us have blind spots. And the blind spots, what are they? These are personal traits that we are sometimes completely unaware, but they affect the way we act, the way we react, the way we behave, and they actually act as a limiter of our effectiveness in our leadership role. Do you have any blind spot? Anyone? Do you have blind spot? Sally? Do you know any blind spot you may have? No.
Most of the time, it's blind to me.
Yes. Blind to you, Johari window. I'm sure the judge will tell us about Johari window at some stage. But let's just explore some of the most frequent blind spots. Next slide, please. You like going it alone. You are the doer. You never ask for help. In fact, you're sometimes afraid of asking for help. Does that ring a bell with you? Are you insensitive of your behaviors to others? How do they see you? Do you have an I know attitude? I know. And you really value being right above everything else? Do you avoid difficult conversations? I know that's me. You conflict avoidance. Sometimes you have to actually have those difficult conversations. Do you blame others or even circumstances? I'm late, the elephant sat on me, that's why I'm late. Oh, there's traffic, yeah? Always playing the victims. That's really a way of refusing responsibility and a blind spot to many of us. What about treating commitments casually? Do you honor people's energy, time, resources as you lead? Or do you conspire against others? You have heard of meetings within meetings where you are actually driven by a personal agenda. And by the time you are meeting your group, you have had other meetings that are not necessarily in the interest of the group at heart. Do you withhold emotional commitment? Or do you are you a fence sitter? Do you just stand on the side and never really make any commitment? Or are you quietly delving in mediocrity? You tolerate good enough as the standard? Now, next slide. Can you help out in the blind spots? Can they be treated? Next. Next. Yes. The principle really of getting cured, if you like, of this blind spot is really to be open for growth. I used to love saying, when you're green, you're growing. When you are ripe, you're ready to die. So you must constantly remain green. If they call you a greenhorn, say, yeah, because you are going to grow, learning, and performance improvement. If you feel you know Najua, when in Mjuaji, you are in a lot of trouble, because then those blind spots may remain. So what are some of the strategies of trying to get rid of your blind spots? Is really soliciting feedback right away, right? You can ask, is there something that I may have missed, right? What's the one blind spot that I should be aware about? And listen to people and genuinely tell yourself you listen. Do you surround yourself with people who don't think like you with a view to learning from them? Or do you want people who are like you, in which case you don't grow? Can you identify your past behavior patterns? Or are there things that you struggle with in the past or things that have made you succeed? Are there situations that you could do better that led to some good outcomes? Or learning, like Mary Nelson used to say, everything in life teaches you how to and how not to. Do you act on past feedback when people tell you things? Do you act on that? Then triggers. Identify triggers. And triggers are really situations that get us to act impulsively or instinctively to something we don't even think, right? These may be people and they are there every day. They may be events or circumstances. They have the power to shape how we act and react. And there is a good book that's called Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith. It's a useful book if one can lay their hands on it. The next strategy is really seeking out our blind spot buddy. Get somebody to say, be my buddy. If I am doing certain things, please point out. Okay, next I'm coming to the last bits of my presentation. It's really the whole issue of leadership in this post-pandemic era. I'm calling it post-pandemic. We are actually still in the era. There was a beautiful article by Blair Shepard that you could try and actually get hold of. And he described 6 paradoxes of leadership that are very important for leaders. And they are there, and I will not bore by going through them. Next slide, please. Right. What are the new skills and capabilities that you need to survive in this post-pandemic time? Really, a strategic executor, you must be a strategic executor that has a vision. You must know why you exist. But not just having a vision, it's how you do it. And the execution has become even more difficult with people not having jobs, they are struggling with survival and so on. You really would have to develop that skill much better. Are you a humble hero, right? You listen very carefully and you use your members by including them to help you get the way out. You don't always have answers. Are you a tech-savvy humanist, right? You adopt new technologies, which you're forced to now. But you must be also understanding and caring for the members who don't know these things or they are a little bit slow. Are you kind with them? You must be a humanist, even as you are able to juggle around your slides and do many things that many of us are probably not able to do. Are you a tradition innovator, right? Do you preserve the purpose and the mission of Rotary while pushing for new things to the extreme? We'll have to do things differently. And these are increasingly things that you'll need to think about. Are you globally minded localists? That means that you expand to reach out for other people's rich insights that you find in your Rotarians to help you expand the position at which you are. Next. Next slide. Are we together? Right.
Yeah.
This is my second last slide. It's really about energy levels. And this slide is a very useful slide that I borrowed from a group. It's called the Drexler-Seibert Team Performance Model. Really, they say energy levels of a team follows the path of a bouncing ball. At the top is where you feel freedom, you're achieving and you're doing good. And this is what we are feeling right now, orientation, right? This is where we are. And probably our current president is at the other end, the renewal, right? And I want to go pole through orientation. Where am I? And this is important for us. Have you resolved the purpose why you need your group? Do you have any team identity? What about the membership? When you do not resolve those issues, you start with disorientation, there's uncertainty and fear. Is there any director who is having those sort of feelings? Because if they are, then you need to redefine your purpose. Then trust building, and I guess part of this Cots is really trust building. When you do that, you develop mutual regard, you're forthright, and you are reliable. People begin to pick who are reliable. When you don't resolve that trust building, then you are cautious, you're mistrusting, and you actually have a wall, a facade, a lie, right? As you go down, it's really towards recognizing what you are doing. What are you doing in the projects you're going to be doing? When you do that, you are clear, you are integrated, you share vision, and you have lots of energy. A bit like the Sunshine Rally, when you see people getting a lot of energy. But when people do not know what they are doing, they are apathetic, skeptical, and they introduce little irrelevant competitions that don't get very far. In the middle is really commitment. Will we do it? Or shall we change our goals? We wanted to do so many projects. Businesses have collapsed. People who had said they're going to work with us are not there anymore because they shut down. When you resolve that, then you're able to assign roles and you allocate resources and make decisions. When you don't, people just wait for you to tell them what to do. So there is dependence and counter-dependence, and there is resistance, quiet resistance. But as you move on and reach the point of really implementation, you know who is doing what, when, and where. You are really, really, really driven. It's a clear process. You are aligned and you're disciplined. But when you don't, you have conflict, confusion, and non-alignment. And you miss deadlines and the president takes responsibility. But if you are where you are now, you're performing well, you've done your things, you're on a high. You really are spontaneous. You even begin to say, let's change the constitution of Rotary. Let's serve another year. But when you don't reach there, you feel overloaded, is disharmony, and ultimately burnout, right? And boredom. But when you reach the point of where I suspect the old team is reaching, it's really saying, let's do it another time. We have become so good at doing what we do, let's do it again. Next. Yes, what are my take-home messages? It's really, leadership is not about you. It's about the effects you have on other people who look up to you. And all of us are leaders. We're not talking about just the president. And John Maxwell says, a leader knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And effective leadership is not about attributes. It's about results. And Mike did quote Peter Drucker, and leadership is contextual. That means that you have to keep on changing depending on circumstances. You have to be flexible, agile, and really real-time action, right? People you lead must feel part of you, and thank you for being part of the team today. Thank you very much. I've talked for longer than I thought.
Thank you, President David. But let me maybe I'll allow the chair to guide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Past President David. I think you're staying with us to the end, so we can move to the next training from PP Sally.
Maybe, Madam Chair, I just needed to pass a cheeky comment about when David asked about the Scrum half.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Virgin Atlantic were trying to penetrate the Kenyan market. And what they did was to sponsor the Rugby Sevens team before Kenya Airways woke up from their slumber. And they had a very memorable billboard at Jomo Kenyatta Airport, where they said, even our hooker is a virgin.
Double entendre. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think from your presentation, one of the traits I admire, I think it goes a long way. So I'll encourage each one of us to ponder about that. And of course, the entire presentation, and especially during these hard times, it will take us a long way, especially in terms of being empathetic. People are under a lot of stress. So we really need to work together as a team. We need to hold each other, and we don't want someone doing all the work by themselves. So let's all be prepared to lend a hand. And next we'll have Pipi Sally take us through the next presentation.
Thank you, Irina. Good afternoon, everyone. I recognize all of us who are present. President Ritesh, thank you so much for hosting us. And of course, President-elect Gideon and your board, the teams from Nairobi East, I see Beatrice, Nairobi North, Athi River, of course, RCN, and our Rotaractors, President Muthaiga and Nairobi Central. Good afternoon. There was a comment there about questions. I don't know, maybe Irina, you can clarify. Will this come at the end? Will the questions be done at the end? I think Ambassador Josephine was asking about questions. Do people note them and bring them at the end? How should we go about it?
I think it will be good after each presentation, just in case we lose our trains of thoughts. Yeah. So maybe we can allocate some time for PP David to take some questions, and we'll ask the participants to raise their hands using the tools provided by Zoom. Then we can check them as they come.
Thank you. I'll step back for that. I think Ambassador Josephine has a question.
Yes, please go ahead, Ambassador Josephine.
Thank you very much, PP Sally, for allowing us time in your session. And thanks, Irina, for the moderation. All protocols observed. I have a question to Dr. David Githanga. He showed us a really great presentation, shared a really great presentation. There is something that I saw on a slide where there was a question about emotional commitment or lack of it to leadership. And I wanted him to just elucidate what was meant by that particular slide. I've even put it in context because we've moved forward now. There was a place where he was talking about blind spots, and there was a blind spot number 8, which I just didn't understand. The rest I was very clear. And I think it's important we all, are able to put a finger on our blind spots. But Dr. David, number 8, please just tell us what is meant by that. If you can go back on your slides, you probably can see them yourself. And thank you very much for allowing me to ask this question.
Do you want to put back the slides? Do you want to put back the slides? I don't have them handy here. Somebody? Anthony?
Anthony, can you put the slides back, please?
Yes, I can. Give me a moment, kindly.
Right. I'm having difficulties with my I think emotional, Josephine, you asked something about emotion, even as he's putting up the slides, emotional commitment. There are people who will come into a meeting who have already made a decision that they're not going to go along. And not because of the fact that the meeting is bad or they don't agree. They just don't agree. there are people who, and I see this in meetings, particularly in the last couple of board meetings been to, where people are, even before you have stated what you want to say, you're judged in one way or the other. And that is a form of not being open to what is coming in. You are resisting even before. Say, I see Josephine in a meeting. So anything Josephine says is not good enough. And I think that's what that particular emotional commitment is meant to be. You're meant to be open book, you're meant to be convincible. And that means the person who is doing the leadership must be able to sell rather than to tell what it is that they are talking about. The other little matter, Josephine, I've forgotten. I don't have my slides, it's very inefficient.
Okay, the slides are coming back, but it was just that. It was about emotional commitment stroke, lack of it, and that being a blind spot. So yes. Thank you for your explanation. It's probably going to be up in 2 slides time. But I also noticed that Senior Rotarian Mike Eldon has his hand up. So there it is, withholding emotional commitment or emotional blackmail. So I wanted to know, what does that really mean for us as a Rotarian? What kind of emotional blackmail would we exert on our leadership dynamic?
Thank you. Let me use an example. When you remain in the club long enough, you then get to know years that are high and others that are low, right? We are waiting for this particular president. With this president, we will flow. With this other one, we don't like his style or don't like her style and so forth. And we've seen this, we know these subtleties. And that is really lack of emotional commitment, in my view. Sally, maybe you may have a different view. Sally? Sally?
Sorry, David, I missed that. I was not quite attentive there.
We're talking about emotional commitment, and past President Josephine has asked, what does emotional blackmail mean in Rotary context?
Well, there are times when we form teams or they cliques, and maybe it's about a project. Perhaps I'm the community services director, and I have this great idea, but it's not yet my term. I'm in President Ritesh is here, but I'm waiting for Gideon, and all I will do is perhaps not fully support the current community services director, and be very attentive, appear to be supporting and attending all the meetings, or giving ideas but not backing them up. But all I am doing is withholding my commitment until it is my time. And there are others where I may perhaps wait to be approached so that I may shine. So, and some of these things, the way I'm speaking is not, it's normally not deliberate. If we had discussed our traits or our personality, some of these things we don't know we possess, but it may be a habit or it may be an inborn trait. And it just takes communication, somebody to say you have good ideas, but you don't come out. Or why don't you bring this out? Or why didn't you bring them at that particular time? So that then I'm aware. So sometimes we just need to spot each other and tell each other, not be afraid to correct each other or to guide each other. Because it may be something I've done over the years and I'm not aware that it's a weakness, that I'm actually withholding or blackmailing my colleagues emotionally. I think that's what I would add. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a question from PP Mike. Can go ahead.
Thank you, David. Well done. And I think as I was listening to you, it's as though I was listening to you describing David Kidanga. And it's not bad for a mere doctor. And the way you are a hybrid between your technical skills and your leadership skills is just wonderful. And listening to you is such a pleasure. One of the participants posted a message wanting the presentation. I think we all want your presentation. And I think probably not even just the board members, I think all the members, because self-leadership is there. In Rotary, we are all leaders. And so do think about this broadest possible distribution of your slides. My question is about this link between charisma and trust. And as I heard you say that, I immediately started thinking about politicians who almost all are charismatic, but hardly any of whom are trustworthy, with the best example perhaps being Donald Trump. Although he was trusted by his 72 million supporters, his base is a thoroughly untrustworthy person. So tell us more about how you came up with this link between charisma and trust.
I think, again, here, thank you very much, first of all, for your compliments. And whenever you are complimented by the content expert, it's a good thing, which also tells you how Mike has been in this space for quite a long time. Now, I think charisma has something to do with what people feel when you come into a room. Are you able to rally them, right? Are you able to rally them? It's an entry point. It's a bit like beauty. They say that people who are beautiful tend to get first places until maybe they speak, and then they reveal themselves to the rest. Maybe charisma enables you to get people to be drawn to you, but subsequently they'll be evaluating you. So, and we do this in presentations all the time. When you walk on the stage, your listeners decide if they're going to listen to you or not, purely because of the way you carried yourself about, or the way you addressed, or the way you introduce your talk. And I think that is where the whole issue of charisma comes in. So charisma on its own doesn't carry if you do not have those other traits. And the issues of blind spot, where you are listening and harnessing to everyone in the room, is what is important. If you mention specifically a person like Donald Trump, I don't really know him personally, but one would imagine that's a person who knows the best, he knows how to do best business, he knows how to whatever and so on. So probably he wouldn't listen to even his content experts and so on. So he has missed out, although he has that presence and is able to rally people, oh yeah, oh yeah. We see this with local politicians too. They're able to talk and get people to do things, but they have no substance, they are hollow. So there isn't any one strategy that is everything. You really have to combine all these descriptions of good leaders and be aware about your own shortcomings that I call blind spot. And remember, I did mention that we seem to lose the abilities to be aware about our blind spot. The more senior we become, we are assured, I am the bee's knees. So I think it's just to keep it alive and to stay green so that you're willing to learn and to learn from even people who are younger. But I don't know whether the rest of the panels have something to add. Irene is a corporate kahuna. Irene, maybe you want to add something about charisma and trust?
I would say charisma is important because you get people to listen. If you're lacking in charisma, then you might have a very important message, but if you don't have a way to get it through to your audience or the listeners, then it might get lost. And that's why you find that some people who run very big companies, when it comes to PR and public presentations, they would rather go through someone else and get their information said. So the trick then for Rotary perhaps would be to make sure that what is being disseminated charismatically can be trusted as well. Because I think I saw in one of your slides, trust takes a while to build, but can be destroyed in an instant. So combining the two, you'll go a further distance than if you're just working with one. And that's all I can say for now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's very well stated. I couldn't say it better.
Okay, I don't see any other hands, but feel free to raise your hand if you still have a question for PP David, can be answered later. I think now the next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. I lost a bit, but were you asking me to jump in?
It's your turn.
So I have unstable network. Please repeat that.
No, just enough for you to go ahead with the next presentation. It's okay for you to go ahead now. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, greetings to everyone. I know we've had really nice presentations from Mike and David, and I hope we are still all together and learning a lot as we share. Feel free to chime in either through the chat or through the reactions, either raise your hand. And I'll now move us to the next session. And as we transition to the next session, I'd just like to invite you to go to the chat. I have posted a question that I'd like us to respond to. Click into that link and let's engage as we start. Click into the link, please. And let me know if you have transitioned. Have you seen the link?
Yes.
Yes, please respond, and I will be sharing the responses for the first questions in a few minutes. Okay. Are we responding? I want us to. Before I share, I don't see, have you responded? Because I want to start sharing once I see a few responses. Yes, I see a few, so I can start sharing. Please continue as we. Okay. So this is what serving to change lives means to us. You're saying being pragmatic, resilient, responsive, transforming, love, empathetic, compassion, commitment, purpose, even Rotary. Yes, keep them coming, giving, encouraging, integrity. Yes, Mike, your word mad is here. Nurture, impactful, aware. Yes. That's good. Build, gratitude. Have I missed something? Deliberate, empathetic, cheer, mission. These are great words, I think, when we talk about serving to change. So these are some of the things I believe, I hope we can all see them. These are some of the things that you're telling us that when we talk about the theme for our year, serve to change lives. This is what it means.
Sorry. Oh, shit.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, are we back?
Sorry, my apologies. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it happens. That's technology. First, we'll do the poll, and then I'll make the presentation, and then we shall go to the breakout rooms. I don't know if everybody is back. Sometimes you go to the breakout rooms and you're left alone. So thank you. Welcome back. So let's go back to our, I hope we had finished the first question. We will have to click on the link again so that we get to the second question. Please click on the link again. It's still up there. So I can take you to the next question. Okay, let's respond to the next question. I hope you can see it. Can you see the second question? Okay. Okay, there is the link. I've put it up again. Can you see the link? Have you got the link? Yes, okay. Let's respond to the next question and we shall see. I'll share the screen as soon as I see a few responses. Okay, they're coming up. They're coming up. So I'll start sharing. Okay, so this is what you're bringing to the board. We are all in one of the boards. Again, I see openness, innovation, passion, skill, togetherness. Okay, you are coming on board with the need to serve, togetherness, energy, planning, leadership, success, integrity. Integrity is repeated, that's great. Experience, yes, you offer, maybe it was learned from a previous either at work or in a previous board. Execution, knowledge, exposure, passion, togetherness, wisdom, innovation. Yes, any more? Do we have any more? What else are we bringing to the board? Okay, is that all? Okay, I'll stop sharing now and come back to so that I can then just run my screen again. So those are great words that that you've brought up. So I now want to just start the presentation so that we are together. Okay, can you see my slide, the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So leadership has been well covered by both by Mike and David, and each of us has been in a position of leadership at one time or the other, whether it was when we were playing games in school or little children at work, at home. We have all been in this position at one time or the other. So what I want us to do is, I want us to use something that is common to each and every one of us. And this is the animal kingdom. And we've already done this Mentimeter. So I'll just be sharing some of the lessons from the animal kingdom. And the first animal I pick is the wolf. We don't have them around here, but I think we all know them. And if you look at it, when they're in the snow, they stick together to survive. So what is it that this animal will be bringing to us? In Rotary clubs, sometimes we have those cliques that I was talking about. And if we don't stick and work together, like the wolf in the snow, we are going to perish. So we don't want any Rotary club perishing. So we need to stick and work together. The wolves also have some hierarchy. And this is where the board roles and responsibilities come up. But even as we look at this hierarchy, please let us not exclude the other Rotarians. So we don't need to have the board and Rotarians. The board is there for leadership and guidance. It's a governance requirement, but take the roles and ensure that you engage and embrace all Rotarians. Now the wolves have a certain way that they communicate. There's a howl they give to just make sure that they're going and to encourage each other. In these times of screen meetings, online appearances, how do we tell that we are still together? And that's the phrase we keep asking. Are you still there? Am I alone? Can you hear me? I think that's the most used word. So what methods are you going to use in the meetings? So we have, of course, the WhatsApp, we have SMSs, and we have email. But let's take a moment every so often to call each other. Physical meetings may be difficult, but can we call each other? And even if it's a WhatsApp call where we see each other, it's so refreshing. And really we salute Mike Eldon, who has refused to stay away from us. And we see him all the time. So let's engage like the wolf and see that we are communicating. So let's define the method of communication that we shall be using. A giraffe. When I was in high school, I was in a Catholic school, and our literature teacher, she was a nun. She looked at me one time and told me, Salome, you're tall and graceful. I had disgraceful, and I was so disturbed because I didn't know the word graceful. I only knew disgraceful. So I was so worried. What had I done to be called disgraceful? But I love the giraffe animal and just the way it walks, and it's actually got a very graceful gait. So we as clubs should try and stand tall. Standing tall is not necessarily about the height. There's another point of the height, but it is what is unique about us. How are we going to be gracious? How do we become admired as leaders, that we are board members? You're the president, you're the director, secretary, treasurer. What is it that makes others say that you stand tall, that what traits are those? If you look at this animal, the giraffe, it's beautiful gazing at us. But also as a leader, you realize that, look at that neck, so long. It means you are exposed. Your underbelly, our long neck is exposed. So how do we cover each other? How do we not cover the wrongs, but how do we protect each other? You know this story of the king being naked, who wondered, the king walked around the whole place and nobody dared tell him that he was naked because they feared him. So how do we as board members, directors, Rotarians, presidents, how do we support each other despite being exposed by our long necks and soft underbelly? This height is also advantageous, that we can use it as commanding our presence. But the presence we are going to command is the values that Mike talked about. is the traits that David talked about. So let us have some admirable height, in the sense that people say these are people of integrity. Even some of the words that you've put out there, integrity, fairness, and just being open and ready to serve. If you look at this giraffe, it has some unique pattern. And that is how we come. We come as Rotarians. We have definitely Rotary Club of Nairobi is a club of diversity. We have all color. But not only is it about color, it's also about our different characteristics and traits. We all matter. So how do we maximize on that instead of using it against others? There's a question of what am I bringing to the table? And again, the higher view is a strategic advantage. Let us put ourselves using our values at that strategic advantage, that when our Rotarians are with us, they benefit and they see that our experience, and you cited that again in the poll, our experience is useful. We're bringing it to the table, and we should share this with the others. Let's not have that issue of boards have met. I remember one time when I was country chair, I visited a club, and when I went, they were in a board meeting. And I entered and they told me, no, excuse us, we are having our board meeting. So I said, yes, I can join. And they said, no, this is private. And I said, that's a bit odd, because when we discussed, we said that board meetings, let's try and be as inclusive and embrace all. So because I didn't want a scene, I stepped out and I stayed with the members, and it took a whole 20 minutes as we waited for the board meeting to end. And you can imagine all the other Rotarians were feeling sort of like left out. Oh. So let's share what we're discussing with the others. Don't make it secretive. And again, as you look at those spots, what are the talents and unique skills that we have? The giraffe brings all that. But also in the clubs, we also need to realize that our size, and it does not mean that we are that strong. So we may be a big club. RCN is 90 years. You may be a young club, energetic. Youth has energy and can fight. Let's not confuse our size with strength. The strength is all of us. The strength is what we bring to the table. So let's not think that because we've been here long or because we're a young club, that is not to be confused. It is what we shall build. I love these little guys, although sometimes they spook me. Ants. I think we've all at some stage stopped to just marvel at the way they work. And I always wonder, when one ant is moving to the next, they look like they're communicating. But it's like a castle system that's out there. So you have the queens who are at the top, and their work is to lay the eggs. Then you have some soldier ants and some worker ants. Now, soldier ants and worker ants, their work is to feed the larvae and to clean the eggs and to look for food. So much as we see them all seem to be going the same direction, stopping, they have their roles and responsibilities. Then we have the fertile males. So in the club, we have to see the board roles, the responsibilities. How are we assigning these roles? But most importantly, how are we updating each other? The way the ants stop at each point to greet each other. I say like they're just saying, hi, we're going on. So how are we communicating from the board to the other Rotarians? Then the ultimate thing for me is that ants are really hard workers, and they have that coordination. If we are to succeed in serving, in bringing that change, serve to change, we have to work hard, but also have some coordination, sense of coordination. Yes, the leopard. This is all about agility and the performance. You have to change and we have to perform on demand. And we need to be fast and agile. So once we've set our goal, how are we going to go about this? We've seen an elephant that is moving, a leopard that is moving slowly, then suddenly bursts into speed. So that adaptability. In the first month, right now, everybody is charged, is ready to go. We are planning, when are we going to bust and run? So we need to also track, we have to track the ground that we are operating in. At this time, we are still working online. What are the programs? How do we get ready that when things change, how are we going to go to the physical meetings? We need to have that agility. And we saw this happening in 2020 when the meetings were, when we were told to, first of all, the first lockdown, and we all had to work from home. The ability to change to meetings, online meetings, and again, most clubs have really done well and kept the attendance, kept
I just opened this now
so
on the screen.
yeah, shows our agility. How do we move quickly and easily? And how do we think and understand quickly when the challenges come? All those are aspects that we need. A lot is known about the ego, but we have then to pick what it is that we want. And at this point, I just want to highlight the aspect of this. You know, the ego is said that from high up there, it can tell or spot a little, is it a rat or a mouse, and goes straight for it. The focus and the vision, how do we keep that vision? And an eagle also eats fresh things. So all president-elects, we may ride on the current presidents, but we have to plan ahead. What new are we going to bring? Because we have to see that change. Of course, it may be working, we may not need to change, but to keep the interest, we may need these new ideas, the concepts, and new challenges. Just like the ego does not eat stale, it has to eat something that is fresh. Eagles love storms, and we have to realize that adversities and challenges will only make us stronger. It will make us interesting, and it will make life and Rotary meaningful. If you look at the Rotary Club of Nairobi at 90, there is a lot that has gone into that. Some of the other clubs, at the River and the Nairobi North, Nairobi East is a little older, but when we look at these other clubs, you need strength. We need strength, and we need to take some hard decisions. Our members paying, why aren't people paying their subscriptions? Why are people not attending meetings? So, okay, I need to take a break because, can you see my presentation?
Yes, madam.
Okay, yeah, because I just got a message that you can now see it, so I thought it wasn't on. Okay, so we need to focus on the strength. So that's what we take away from the ego. Our faithful pet, the dog. This is an animal that is very adaptable. It lives with us very easily as a friend, but it will also live with other pets, and it will also live with other forms of dogs, some which are fierce and others not so. So the dog brings us consistency, and it is also a very grateful animal if you treat it well, and it's content and it knows how to rest. So presidents, directors, we have also to know when we are tired, when this baggage we are carrying, when do we need to share it, and when do we rest? When do we take that rest? And show gratitude, and also be consistent in our work as we serve Rotary. A very interesting one here, the chameleon. And change, as they say, is the only constant thing. So how are we going to adapt to change? The presidents of 2019, 2020, and the current ones of 2020, 2021, were able to adapt to change and have online meetings. How are you and your board going to adapt? The only thing you can know is that change is the only going concern, that we have to adapt like the chameleon. And Peter Seng here says that people don't resist change. They just resist being changed. So introduce the change, but don't try to change the people. Let us adapt to that change. I want to tell of a quick story here, and this is from the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. The two, now these animals, there's a fox and there's a hedgehog. And what happens here is, as a board, we have to know how to adapt. The story is told that every morning, the fox wakes up with one agenda. It is going to eat the hedgehog, whether it will be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So it will adapt very, very many tactics. It will pretend to be dead so that the hedgehog can pass near it and it will grab. It will pretend to, to run very fast and try and jump on it. But the hedgehog only uses one strategy. And this strategy is simple. The strategy is the hedgehog rolls into a ball of spikes, so the fox never quite catches it. So what is our strategy? As the fox, in Rotary clubs, when are you going to play fox? And when are you going to be the hedgehog so that we survive? And what are the things? What is the fox that will be after us? Foxes after us will be unpaid dues, non-attendance of members, cliques in the club, boards being working alone independently without involving members. You will find that when you go to talk to your members, they will roll into a ball and you will not reach them. So let's learn that lesson and adapt accordingly. Another great animal, the lion. What is your attitude? This is another one as it sprouts its stuff in the wild, has a great attitude. You just have to admire. Very powerful, but also doesn't go around screaming. Doesn't say that I am the one, but everybody knows it's the one. Very courageous, has strength, is bold. They don't go alone, they hunt together. Again, as a board, are you going to be a president alone or fundraising director alone, treasurer alone, secretary alone? You must be together and keeping the focus. So these traits of these animals, what are we seeing and what are we going to pick? I love the geese. The geese, as you can see, the best part of them is this V formation, and it says all about the geese. In this V formation, it starts with that. Yes, do we have a question? So the V, the vision, you can see. With the V, it ensures that all of us can see. So again, what is our formation? How do we get the V? And I'll take because it is our club, I can make a joke about it. When we used to have the meetings at LICO and we used to have a high table, sort of like the high table and the rest of us are sitting down there. That's not what I mean by the V formation, but we just need to make sure that as a board, whatever we are doing, everybody can see us and we can see them. The other thing about this V formation is that we have to stay committed to the core values and purpose. Where are we headed? The geese offer support in challenging times. If one of the geese is injured or ill, 2 geese will follow it, rest with it until it either dies or recovers. What do we do as clubs? When a Rotarian is not coming, do we call them? Are we finding out what's happening? Can we adapt the geese strategy? Find out, okay, we can't visit, but we can do e-visits because sometimes we are neglecting our members by not calling on them. The geese honk a lot and they honk at each other to appreciate the good work that they're doing. You as board members, we as board members, as president-elects, how are we going to be honking to tell the other Rotarians that we're doing well? How do we empower others to lead? You'll find that in this V formation, the lead geese, the president, at some stage falls back and another one takes over. This enables one to rest and it enables the other geese also to take up and have an opportunity. But it is also about humility. When you feel tired, don't just keep pushing. tell your board, hey, I think I'm burning out, and somebody else should step up in that V formation. And this will only happen if we have that shared common goal, right? So remember the V formation in the boards and how will it look like in our boards. Okay, this is a scary one, yes, but it teaches us resilience, that we must change. How old is the crocodile? It's said that it's very old, but has remained the same all these years. How does it manage to stay? It doesn't mean that we resist change, but we must be adaptable. The Rotary landscape is changing. At one time when we were told that we didn't need to meet every so often, we didn't need to meet every week. Some clubs adopted that, and some of them promptly, I won't say died, but nearly. So we need to adapt to the times, but we need to do that with wisdom. If you look at that jaw, it's very powerful, and that scheme, it's built to withstand the terrain that it operates in. So how do we strengthen our Rotary jaws, not to bite anyone, but to keep the club alive? And how do we protect ourselves that the elements of competition in terms of our resources are dwindling, when we can no longer pay our dues, when people are no longer coming to clubs? What's the resilience? What is it that will keep us together? Drawing to a close, the elephant, huge and this is where the emotional intelligence lies, the ones that David was talking about. And the elephant has right attitude, great personality, and it's got some really soft skills and empathy. It is said that when the elephant is about to deliver its young, the aunties, well, other female elephants will escort the mother to be and stay with it and help it deliver. So it has and it is said it's got some of this intelligence, and that's why you find them trained for circuses and all that. But it's also a very calm animal. Of course, I don't mean that you disturb it. It has a sense of togetherness. If you see the way they operate as a herd, very, very determined, but also has a great memory. We need this memory for our institutional, we need the institutional memory for our survival. So let's bring this elephant memory and see how does it work for us. So I'd like us possibly to break into some groups in a few minutes, but let's think about what is this leadership that we're talking about. We all have our mandate, we all have our vision, and we have the goals. But our role, therefore, is that we have to get the capacity to translate the vision into reality, right? So what is this reality that we're talking about? And also remember that much as we have been called to positions of leadership, the function of leadership is not that we want more followers, but we want more leaders. Can we create more leaders? So let's not be very happy when all we do is, and that's Ralph Nader who says that, let's not just keep being happy that you have so many Rotarians. It's that, have you grown them to leadership? So Ambassador, I've seen your hand, but I'm wondering, can we do the groups or do we take the questions? Then I can come back and we break into the groups. Maybe I take the questions and then we come back and get into the groups, because we shall have a small discussion and then come back to a plenary session. Thank you. Maybe I can take the question then.
Thank you very much, PP Sally. And I'm hoping I can take the floor and ask a question, because no one has really answered in consensus whether we should move ahead or whether we can ask questions now. But I want to thank you for your presentation, and I like the animation with the animal farm. And I have a challenge in terms of the story of the animal farm, and my challenge is twofold. The characters that you have presented come out with very strong roles in particular directions or around particular traits. And, you know, traits are developed because not only in the theory of the animal farm, but in evolution, traits are developed as transitional mechanisms for survival. And some of them are positive, even as they look negative. So some of the traits that we have discussed have a two-way value. They have a value both forward-leaning and a value also in retrospect. I don't want to go much deeper because I understand you will, and I know you will understand Miss Sally. And so I just wanted, that's a comment I want to make, and I know you will absorb and digest what I'm saying. And then the second is also about transition. I love the flower yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because at each stage, the flower is beautiful. And so I do want to ask how you might be able to pick out of the animal farm some animals that really are beautiful yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Simply because Rotary does have a threefold nature in its presidency: president nominee, president-elect, and the president. And I feel that we need to appreciate each, and we need to create roles so that it's not just the story of the incumbent. It's a story of that president before and the one coming in. And that way we'll be true to the nature of the leadership in Rotary. Thank you, Sally. Thanks for a great presentation.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comments. Yes, indeed, all animals do have the two sides. And I think maybe I'll request that we pause that, because that's part of what you will do in the groups and the question that I am asking in the teams is, if I can just, I'll just jump in here. We're not yet going into the groups, but this is what you're going to do. And what you are going to do is, of course, after you appoint your rapporteur, you're to look at the real life challenges, like now in this case, the leadership, and then think about what the respective bird or animal that you are in, how it addresses the challenge that you had. And in this case, Josephine, this will now be the positive and the negative aspect of it. Then the other aspect is, what do you, since you're going to be talking about one animal or one bird, the next aspect is, of the other animals that you're not discussing, what is it you pick from there? So it can actually be that in these times, these traits of this animal are not conducive or they're not helpful to us, but these ones are what are helpful. Now going to your second question, which is now about the troika of Rotary, which is really a brilliant idea. And it's a pity that not all leadership uses this approach. I think in this one also we can pick, I would imagine that at this stage, President Ritesh, President-elect Gideon, and yourself, President nominee, would sit and pull out these are the challenges we face, because not everything is what it looks like face value. We may be seeing President Ritesh has had a very nice time, but you only need to listen to him to find out, really, was it that easy? What were his struggles? So that it informs Gideon, it informs Josephine. So the success stories would be good to be told, but with specific examples. And that's why we're going to a breakout, so that we're not just talking about the animal kingdom as is, but what does the animal kingdom mean to you in your leadership? So I'd request that still we pack that, so that when we come back to report, we address that at that stage, if you will be so kind as to allow that. Is there any other question, or can we move? We're going to break into 3 groups, and I will now stop sharing.
There are no other questions. I don't see anyone with their hands raised.
So before, Anthony, before you don't take us to the groups yet. I want to just pull out. I want to pull out the instructions so that when we go, okay. I want to put this in the chat now, and then once I've put it in the chat, Anthony can. I've posted this. So these are the instructions for the breakout rooms. We'll just be in the breakout rooms for 15 minutes. They're just 3 rooms. Appoint a rapporteur or appoint somebody to facilitate the discussion, and you will present back and we'll continue the discussion in plenary. So Anthony, are you able to take us? If not, then I can take you. Anthony, are you able, or do we?
I can do it.
Because we can open. Okay, go ahead, go ahead. Open the breakout rooms.
Okay.
Okay, we are still waiting.
Just a moment.
Okay. Okay, once you're invited, let's move. Let's hope we can join. Please join a breakout room. Go to the breakout rooms and select a room that you'd like to go to. Everybody seems to be in the geese. Go and go to the breakout rooms and select. There are 3 rooms: geese, ants, and chameleon. Choose a room, a group you'd like to join.
I think mine is geese. Ni wewe? Atataka ngapi huyo? Mimi niko kwa mkutano kidogo. Hello?
So this is the group, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sally, will you do it?
All right, let me just get back there. Let me recreate them. Allow me to just okay. Let me rename them. Okay, so let's go to, can you see where the breakout button is? Can you see?
Yes.
If you can go, then choose a room that you want to go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are
Are you
3
moving?
rooms.
Are you able to move?
There are 3 rooms.
Yes, choose one.
Okay.
Just join wherever you want. I can see some people are moving, yes. Then once you're there, you follow the instructions in the chart. You have to go to the breakout to choose. Some people have not joined. Please go to the breakout. Okay, Justice, join any of the groups that you want.
I clicked the ants, but I don't see my name there.
Oh, click join, Go to there and then click the button join.
Okay, let's see. Let me see if I can get into
any of the others. Just click join.
But I don't see the word join.
On the right hand.
Move to. I see move to, but I don't see join, because normally when it's easier when you are the host, but
okay, I can see breakout rooms.
Yeah.
When I click, I see geese and chameleon.
Yeah.
So which do I press on whichever and then join?
Yes, then say join. Yes.
So,
oh,
okay,
join. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Have you joined?
Like
yes. Now it's only Margareta. Is Margareta here? Ritesh. Okay. So I will go to any of the breakout rooms and just join them and just get the instructions. As a Rotarian, right? And then now you're to, since this is the group of, which group is this? This is the geese. Now looking at the geese, how would the characteristics of the geese have helped you in that challenging Rotary? Right? And then you can take a few more minutes to think of one other animal and how that animal will help you, animal or bird, how that animal or bird will help you in your role in the board. Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
The instructions remain on the chart. So whoever is a rapporteur will come back to present in the group. I will leave briefly so that I can go to another team to clarify. All the best. Please appoint your chair and rapporteur. You have any question? The questions are in the chat.
Yeah, I can see them. Yes.
Okay.
My chart has disappeared, so I need the questions
yeah,
again.
Mine has also disappeared. Can you repost?
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share the questions.
Please do.
Pipi Sally can post them for us since she's here.
Okay, there. Can you see them now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we have a facilitator.
Is there anything you need to clarify? Because I'm leaving. I want to go to another group to clarify. Is there any question you have?
I have all the questions here.
Okay, so I'll leave you briefly. I could come back later, but let me go to another team.
How much time do we have again?
15 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, bye. See you shortly.
All right, the first question is, what real life challenges have you faced in the past? I'm leaving it open so that the members here can each participate.
Hello. Anthony.
Yes, Ali.
Margareta.
Yes, Sally.
Can I take you to a breakout room?
Please, I don't know where to go.
Okay, let me take you to a breakout room. And President Ritesh?
He's also out there.
Hi, Sally.
So I'm with Christian. Yes, please.
Hey, President Ritesh. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm just giving them a few more minutes, then we'll all come back.
In the five more minutes.
Right, okay, let me just put that.
Yeah.
Okay. Gideon. President Gideon. Anthony, did you do a round? I went round twice.
I did it the first time.
Yeah, let's just wait for them because I'm seeing when I go there, they're asking questions and they're asking me questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you closed, Anthony? Oh, they're finished.
You are called back.
Okay, are we all back? Okay, not everybody's back, but I think those who are here have finished. Beatrice, your team finished?
Yes, we're done. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd given them 2 minutes, let them just come up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're just waiting for the other team to come. So I've given them now a warning. They'll be coming shortly in 59 seconds.
Sally, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to leave our lovely group. But
okay, now we
thank
are all
you so much. Oh, really?
Yes, thank you.
So I didn't take that minute, but
will you forgive me? I'm going to depart. Thank you so much. This is really important.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sally.
Okay, thank you, Margarita. Right, how was the experience? Let's hear from each other. So we had just the geese and the ants. For some reason, the chameleon did not attract anyone. So shall we start with the, Beatrice, what is your team you were in earlier?
I was in the ants team and I was the facilitator, and our rapporteur is Nicodemus, I believe.
Nicodemus, please present your team.
Let's see here.
Have we lost some people?
But then Beatrice can be both, actually.
Well, it's good. I took a few notes that we were discussing a situation which one of our participants went through, and actually, in that particular situation, the color of her skin was the issue. She was in a big post, serving as a judge, Justice Jason Roach, serving as a judge in an international organization, the ICC. And upon landing there, of course, everybody had been vetted and had gone through all the rigorous procedures to be elected. And yet, once she arrived there, she found herself in a situation where certain quarters or certain colleagues were bunching up. And I thought it was akin to what Sally, you were talking about earlier, where people go into cliques and start thinking they're more important than others, or that they're more endowed in certain ways. And so from the response that Justice Aluoch gave to that situation, we identified traits and characteristics of other animals, but we thought that the aunt in that kind of situation would not have behaved the way the colleagues were behaving, because in the ant kingdom, everybody knows their role and everybody carries out their obligations and their duties, which are clearly defined without having this attitude that they are more important than others, or that the role they're playing is more important than the role others are playing. In comparison, or as we were comparing this response that Justice Aluoch gave to the situation, in which she actually confronted the situation head on and set the situation straight. We came up with certain parallels. One of them was the fox. The fact that the fox is very courageous, and there's a reason why the fox works in teams. It's because the teamwork helps them to survive. We also closely followed that with the dog. The fact that there are all different types of dogs with different colors and different sizes and different barks and talents. But the fact that dogs are very accepting of one another. Dogs are very adaptive. Justice Joyce Aluoch had to adapt to a new situation. And also dedication, the fact that dogs are dedicated to the service to which they are called. And she put the service that had taken her out there above all other considerations, and she was able to surmount the challenge. In that discussion, there was a parallel in what we come across in Rotary, where sometimes we find that in some clubs, the people who are probably aged or have come from different ethnicities or regions or religions somehow could end up feeling depending on the locality of the group, or perhaps the culture that has been developed over time of a club such as Rotary Club of Nairobi, or if I might add, my club, Nairobi East. So that element of adaptability, how dogs are able to adapt to one another, the action or her response to the challenge to that of a lion. She had the confidence in herself and her abilities and her origins and her source to be able to confront that situation head on, which would not have been possible if she didn't have the self-confidence and the courage that a lion has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Team Ants. Thank you. I think you've done a good job, if we can appreciate them. As we move then, and all your team members, thank you. So let's quickly move on then to the Team Geese. We bring it. Or who's presenting?
Yeah, so our team was Geese, and we highlighted a few challenges that have come up, but we decided to focus on the challenges within our experiences in Rotary. So one of our members, for instance, was thrust into leadership. She was given this treasurer position, and she's good with numbers, but as you would know, treasurer position in Rotary would not be the same as treasurer position in a business. And so because there was no orientation, she had to sink or swim, and maybe a little time in her getting adapted was wasted. So perhaps that would have been different. And then there's another member who's been in the club for nearly 30 years. And what he sees coming up often is that the clique issue that Mike mentioned comes up quite a bit often. And there perhaps should be a way to address that, going forward. You can't police people, but at least perhaps we can reduce the instances that people feel the need to break out in cliques as opposed to voicing issues or discrepancies openly in a committee that can address them. And then the last one, because of COVID-19, one of our members finds that the commitments that people had, kind of committed to at the beginning of their year, their Rotary year, when they were inducted in March of this year, actually, and COVID happened. And so you find that a lot of the leadership that had committed to saying, this is what we are going to do, and this is what we'll act on, and this is the playbook, they suddenly just stopped showing up. And so that was one of the challenges. And so to go back to the geese, how would the geese have resolved, for instance, the first instance where the treasurer was thrust in without orientation? And the answer perhaps would be twofold, that in addition to getting orientation from the team, the older members of the team, she perhaps too could have reached out to one or two people that she looked up to and thought she can trust, because sometimes people don't know you're suffering until you ask for help. And the same case goes to the members of the team, that an issue that Dr. Sali raised earlier, it's great to check up on our members just to make sure that everyone is being carried along and we're not leaving anyone behind. And then on the next one of forming cliques, Dr. Sali said the same thing about communication, and that's where geese come in strongly, because the older members of the club perhaps could help in mentoring the newer leadership, so that people learn quickly that you're best served by sharing your intentions and your goals, so that everyone feels like they're contributing to the agenda, the goal, the whole agenda of Rotary for that year. So in addition to reaching out personally, the older members could also act as mentors and coaches. And then there was the last one of people not committing to their commitments, and due to different challenges, but perhaps it also comes back to the commitment that we talked about earlier. And also Dr. Githanga gave the bouncing ball scenario, where it's, you have, Dr. Githanga, are you there? He's, I can't reach. Yeah, doctor, I'm talking about perhaps the bouncing ball scenario, how we would have used it to resolve the lack of commitment in one of our club members. Do you want to give a view?
We were saying that really the bouncing ball sort of description was describing energy levels. And we started by saying, when people are in the orientation phase, which is what is happening now, they're really, really, really driven, where they identify purpose and so on, they build membership and so forth. Then they build trust, and then they fix the goals. If those things are not done well, then we are lost. We are disoriented. We don't create trust and so on. That's what I was just saying. The initial formative, this forming, storming, norming process in order to perform. I think that's what I was.
Yeah. And time to the kids, they hold together from the beginning, and they keep switching roles, so that you find no one animal is leading and the rest follow. They keep switching roles. So this would tie in very well with this challenge that they faced when there was lack of energy and commitment. And so we went to question 2, how the other animals might have helped in the situation. And we came up with actually 3 animals, and we said that the dog is very good at the sense of smell. And so for us, the members, it's that when we may not be aware that somebody is suffering, but a dog that is, alert will smell without even being told that perhaps somebody needs to be picked up. and so that we can bring them along with us. And that means that we could reach out by phone calls, by asking for a cup of tea. Our club is actually very good at that. So yeah, the dog came in very strongly. Then the other animal that would also have helped in this situation is the giraffe. And it's basically one that sees far ahead from where they are, so that you're not dealing with just the nitty gritties, you're also dealing with the bigger picture. So if you combine that with the dog and the geese, you're in a really good place. And then the last animal that would help wrap it all together is the elephant, because we can't, we have to make use of the older members of the Rotary Club. Their corporate memory will go a long way. Where did they make the best gains? What were the challenges and how did they deal with them? All of that will mean that we don't have to repeat the mistakes of the past, and we can only improve on what, you know, the so fantastic, very nurturing. So in doing all of this and bringing the old and the new together, you're making a group that's cohesive. So it all wraps it together to make sure that no goal or challenge too big for the incoming board. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Let's appreciate that team also. Thank you, Irene and team. Thank you, Dr. Gidanga. And thank you, everyone. The teams, team led by Beatrice, team led by Irene. Thank you all. I see Beatrice, you have a comment or a question?
Yes, there's one important point that I forgot to point out, and this came out in our discussion about the dog. And I think it's important to point it out because of that issue of checking up on other members. The point that came out about the dog is that a dog gives love where love is given. And in this kind of pandemic situation, I think that particular lesson really needs to come home, that if we want our members to be dedicated and more committed, then they'll probably just give as good as they get. If we neglect them, then they will also not be too keen to be part of our Rotary team. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. We will get what we give. And I hope the exercise was useful, and I hope we can continue using these animals. I'll just flash one slide and then I'll hand over quickly. We shall transition to President Ritesh. So as we I hope you have taken note on the lessons you're taking home, especially from those presentations. But I think the big question here is what Ambassador Josephine had asked: how will you share your lessons or successes? That is between the president-elect, and president nominee. It's important that the three sit share these. And of course, then finally, how do you balance your leadership? And with that, I thank you for listening to me, and I stop there so that we can welcome our next speaker. Over to you, Madam Irina. Thank you.
Thank you, P.P. Sally, for that very insightful presentation, and thank you for the groups for your participation, President Ritesh. And if we have time left at the end, then we'll welcome some questions and answers. Over to you, President Ritesh.
Thank you very much indeed, Rotarian Irina, and welcome to my segment. I actually was thinking, what can I add onto this excellent training which has taken place, because we have had talks on leadership, we have had talks on basically the official aspects of running the club as well. But one thing which I do realize I need to share with everyone present is the fact that, number one, are we all registered on My Rotary, the My Rotary portal? I am aware that some of us here may not be registered on My Rotary, and I just want to share my screen with you and show you how important it is to not only register, but to utilize the various tools which are present on my Rotary. So kindly, so as you can see, I have signed on to my Rotary. If you go to www.rotary.org, and once you have opened your My Rotary account, for those who have not and are members of our club, kindly contact me or contact Rotarian Eva or Anthony, and we can guide you. If you see my cursor, I can scroll along at the top. There is home, exchange ideas, take action, and most importantly, learning and reference. When you go to learning and reference, there's a drop-down menu, and you will be able to see that you can learn by role. So to all the incoming board members, I'll urge you to kindly go to learning.
I cannot talk. Yes. But keep some.
Sorry. So kindly go to Learning and Reference Center. Go to Learn by Role. And once you actually scroll across, Club Roles opens up a segment. In a fresh page, you will see the various roles for which you can undergo trainings. There's a training for president, for treasurer, for secretary, and for committees. So I would request you to kindly go. You will note drop down and membership, image, service projects, club committees. There's a huge right on Rotary.org. Take you for a minute through one of these administration. And in administration, you'll see there are further links which actually allow you to learn more or specific items learning. Let me take you to something else. In case you're in Reference Center and into my role, actually go all the way across to Member Center once you registered on my Rotary. When you go to Member Center and that, see there are various online tools, include Brand Center, Rotary Showcase, Learning Center, and I will actually not go through each of the different drop-downs. But I'll say that for incoming board members, and especially for those who want to learn various aspects, not only roles, but what's happening and the changes happening in Rotary, kindly go to Take Action, Learning and Reference, or Member Center. And of course, of us who get the newsletter, the monthly magazine via email, we definitely read it on email. But if not, all that is also available by Rotary if you click on News and Media. So I will be available to any individual who wishes to contact me one-on-one and take you through one-on-one. And I'm sure we'll all learn a lot from my Rotary. Next, I will also request, if you can allow me just one more moment, I want to show a slideshow. Actually, before I do that, I want to raise a few points on membership. Since during the presentation which we had earlier and the presentations by our three wonderful trainers today, I noticed we also have very close to our hearts at our members. And why did I join Rotary Club of Nigeria? Yes, service is excellent, and service not the one aspect which actually made me a member of Rotary Club of Nairobi. I the members of Rotary Club of Nairobi, and I consider them my family. So I will talk a bit about membership. It is most important for us to prioritize existing members. Always keep in touch with the existing members, and especially those who are of a certain age, and reach out to them. Maybe they're not logging on enough onto our meetings. We actually have to pay attention to individuals who we do not see attend our meetings often. Let's carefully select members what can the new members bring to Rotary? So we are looking for new members to introduce the club. Of course, we have to think what exactly can you bring to Rotary, especially to Rotary Club of Nairobi, as unique as we are. And it's very important also to tell the new members onset the cost and time dedication, so it doesn't come as a one thing which I was actually planning on before our presidency, during past President Jessica's year, when I was elect, I was thinking, what exactly is it that I can do as a president with the board for the 9th year? And one thing I wanted to deliver as projects ongoing, and I will request every present on the Rotary Club of Nairobi YouTube channel. We have got talks by the various directors. The community service director's talk is showcasing all the community service projects. The link is on YouTube. I'll share it. International service director has showcased all projects we have completed, and the project in place, including the tree plant, sanitation. All these projects have videos, and they're on our YouTube channel. So I will guide you towards those through our chat group. But I would like to show you something, of just photos. And this is because I was thinking that during the night, we want to work is our image and our branding. And allow me a moment. There we are. So this is a slideshow to take advantage of the situation which we are in. The pandemic is slowing down. But what I decided to do is if we are going to have virtual meetings, how exactly can we make them interesting for all our members? And for those of us who are not Zoom savvy, the best other alternative was actually to record the meeting, upload it to YouTube, and personally send those YouTube links to those members who cannot join us. So we have a series of very interesting speakers, including Rotary National President. And I'll just take you through some slides just to recollect the speakers we've had this year. The reason I'm is because if I was requested to talk about my wish for the incoming board, and I can start by showing what has happened during the year, and would only wish that we can build on this. So here's a series of speakers we've had this year to engage our members. And in all this, branding has been central. So the Rotary Club of Nairobi brand has been cemented during the 90th year. And I can only wish and make it even stronger. The other thing I'd like to share, during this interesting year of the pandemic, we have now adapted to a point where we can actually notice that more members are now logging on to Rotary Zoom meetings. And I know the pandemic is not here to last, but I will President nominee and the board, even if the situation reverses, we should look at having meetings, one physical meeting or hybrid meeting and one virtual meeting. Because you will notice that many members who had in the past complained about coming to Lyco Regency or other destinations can now actually log on at the tap of a finger. These are just some of the speakers we've had this year. And it's quite a long list because we have had many special. And in doing so, we have also who are coming in that Rotary Club of Nairobi is an active club. So here is also a sneak peek of until July. We've had collaborations with Standard Nation Media, Daily, The Star, Article Weekly, NBCC featured us on their websites, partnerships with Radio 44, radio partnership with Radio Africa, and multiple other partnerships during this year. And I can only hope that we further cement our identity as a Rotary Club of Nairobi. Sharing the slide, and thank you. I can only hope that we go from strength. And regarding the center and Rotary, I'll encourage all of us present to kindly sign on to my Rotary. Of us who managed to get just about an hour every alternate day or once a week, kindly go to my Rotary. So much to learn from the Learning Center. You can engage with other clubs through Rotary. You can actually learn from the Branding Center. There are projects which are showcased from around the world. It is an incredible resource, and the learning is endless because they keep on updating new modules to it. So what you learn from is not only for Rotary, it actually makes us learn much more for our personal benefit as well, to expand our minds. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, President Ritesh. Sorry for the background noise. I think we are right on time. And at this juncture, I'd like to invite Rotarian Sylvia to give a vote of thanks. She's from RC at the River, at least one who's not from RCN. And then after that, I'll give a chance to President-elect Gideon to give a vote of thanks to the participants and our visitor to close the meeting. Thank you. And Sylvia.
Thank you for the opportunity, Arena. I want to first start by apologizing regarding my background. It's because I'm hosting and their children. As you had tasked me to give a vote of thanks, I'd like to really appreciate the presenters who gave their time today to present on leadership. For us, we are a club, so we are learning a lot from the team, and powerful speakers like IPP Ritesh, PP Michael, and PP Sally and PP David. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your courage even to present. We do really appreciate your time. Back to you, Rotarian Irina.
Okay, thank you, Rotarian Sylvia. Now to Gideon to close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina. I think I'll start by you and thanking you. I think you're special. Our guests, what a resource we have within our grasp. Mike, I think for the effort, just talk to us from your hospital bed. Is surely service above self. David Gidanga, I think you'll need to share your slides so that we can go through again and revise. PP Sally, I think organizational skills, I look forward to them helping us in this coming year. President Ritesh, I don't know whether we'll maintain the momentum. The board is here. It has listened to you. And yes, 90th was a great year. And 91st must be greater for one simple reason. We're only 9 years shy of our centennial celebrations. So being this the first year of the countdown to this decade, this board is left with no choice but to build on, if not exceed, what we've achieved. Our young Rotary clubs, Sipin Jockey, this resource is available to Athi River. Just talk to them. Like PDG, Yusuf users used to tell us often, users or losers. These resources are available. Beatrice, Embakasi, Nairobi North, North is B. As was celebrating 90 years, Nairobi North was celebrating 50. So these are the clubs would be our great grandchildren. And we are grateful we could and discuss. Rotary, I think, is an open club. I remember going to Stuttgart at one time, and I went to a Rotary Club meeting in Rome. That's because from the final meeting and Nairobi, that all clubs that we invited have felt warm, have felt welcome. And thank you so much for spending 3 hours with our club, and God bless. So I'll just give the final toss to Rotary the world over.
Rotary the world over.
Rotary the world over.
World over.
The world over.
So, Madam Irina, I think I've closed the meeting. So what do? We walk away. Do you have anything else to?
Yes, thank you, and have a lovely rest of your evening, unless the people who want to remain behind and chat. But you are free to leave now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vote of thanks has been given.
Thank you. God bless.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, and bye-bye, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony, also. Thank you, Anthony. Great work. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.